It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
You definitely need to understand the superpower that diversification can provide.
That's right. Step one was get the risk right. Step two is understand how that plays out inside of a portfolio and what methods and mechanisms you can introduce into your portfolio to reduce the risk. And here's really the general idea around diversification. Instead of having all of my eggs in one basket, we all learned that growing up. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. If you can put your eggs in a couple of different baskets, even if those individual baskets in and of themselves are risky or are aggressive, you will actually decrease the risk of the entire egg population by spreading that out over the different baskets.
Well, while you're talking about the eggs, I was thinking about, and this makes me sound old, but I was managing money in the 90s. Mm-hmm. But good diversification or spreading your eggs out, as you're talking about, can feel like you're not doing the right thing while you're in the middle, especially during good times.
That's right.
Because this time feels very similar to some conversations I had with clients around 1998. In 1998, I had clients because realize these are years when the S&P 500 was making over 30%.
Like per year.
I mean, right around that 28 to 30% mark, and you have clients who are like, "Why in the world would I diversify my portfolio?" Where you guys in a diversified portfolio are going to make 17 to 20%, which, by the way, right now sounds outstanding. But when the market's making 28 to 33%, you're like, that sounds horrible.
Yep.
And that is the fallacy of everybody thinking, why would I want diversification? Because it's going to let me make a good portion of the upside and hopefully protect me from the downside. But it just doesn't feel like it's necessary when the market just keeps going up, up, up. And you think we had 2008, market got beat up, and we've had a few years where it's been close to zero, but we haven't had any dramatic drops where you've seen, the pandemic, we had a 35% drop, but it made it back.
Quick.
It was super quick. If you fell asleep at the wrong month,
you'd have missed it.
You made all your money back. So I think we all need an education on how diversification works in a more prolonged downturn.
So here is a really interesting example that Daniel put together for us. And we just how this diversification may feel disappointing, but it's actually awesome. And so we want to kind of walk you back in time through the most recent couple decades that we've completed. If you look from the time period of January of 2000, the beginning of this millennium, until September of 2002, the S&P 500 index would have lost about 41%.
That was the dot-com
dot-com bubble burst. Now, if you were in a 60-40 portfolio, and 60 being just the S&P 500 and 40 just being the 10-year treasury, your portfolio over that same time period would have only been down about 18%. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, I lost money. It didn't protect me. I'm not at zero. But I didn't lose as much as the S&P 500.
But let's put numbers on this as we're kind of going through it, because you say the way I'm thinking about the emotional side of the typical client, market's down 41%. You've been doing a good job of managing the risk for your clients with a diversified portfolio. And you're obviously going to have more than two holdings, but it still will make the point. This is a brand new client that lost 18%. If this was $1 million portfolio, they're going to be pretty upset that close to $200,000 just evaporated in the very first year they hired you. So I think saying I just lost money is probably an understatement. There's going to be some people that are going to be disappointed. Even though it's half of what the market did, they're still going to be upset.
And so then, okay, let's fast forward a little bit from October of 2002 all the way till October of 2007. In the recovery, S&P 500 would have made 102%. The 60-40 portfolio would have made about 70%. So now that person, I go, well, man, I lost money. Man, the market's been killing it. The market doubled. It made 100% from the bottom. I only made 70%. I didn't make quite as much as the market.
In parroting the worst client in history's thought process, they're going to be like, okay, so I hired these turkeys in January of 2000. They lost me money in the down market. And here we are. We hit the recovery. They told me it was coming. But they only got me 70% of the upside. What am I doing here? I mean, this is what people, if you're the worst client in history, this is the thoughts that are going through your head.
So then, fast forward again, we go from November of 2007 into February of 2009, the Great Recession. And over that time period, the S&P 500 would have lost 50% of its value. Your 60-40 portfolio would have only, I'm doing air quotes for those of you who can't see me, only would have lost 28.7%. So just like you said, no one is going to be happy being down almost 30%. You're still going to be thinking, holy cow, I lost money.
Yep.
So then we fast forward again into the recovery, March of 2009, all the way through January of 2020, pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, pre-downturn. The S&P 500 over that time period made almost 472%. That 60-40 diversified portfolio would have only, air quotes again, made 294%. So once again, you're saying, why am I doing this diversification thing? Why is this a strategy that I'm doing?
I mean, I like to think we're math people. You see 472 to 294. I'd be like, I don't know, guys. You left 170%, at least 170% sitting on the sidelines. What gives here? Let's tell them the rest of the story. When you look at this over, bring it all together, the ups, the downs, why do you diversify?
Well, again, if we look at just thinking about the pandemic in 2020, from February of 2020 to March of 2020, S&P would have been down 34%, and the diversified portfolio would have been down 20%. So you're thinking, I lost money again. Fast forward even more, April of 2020 until November of 2021. So I'm going to call this the pandemic recovery. S&P 500 would have made 42%. Again, you underperformed. You only made 26.4%. So you said, I didn't lose as much. I didn't make as much. I didn't lose as much. I didn't make as much. I didn't lose as much. I didn't make as much. What does that mean over an actual investing life cycle? Well, if you look at this entire period from January of 2000 until November of 2021, the S&P 500 in total would have been up 219.6%. or $100,000 would have grown to $319,500. However, that diversified 60-40 portfolio would have made almost 295%, or it would be approaching almost $400,000. It's only at the end of the journey that you would look back and say, holy cow, I'm so glad I had that diversified portfolio.
Well, a lot of people are going to hear these numbers that we just covered, and they're going to need some clarification. They need a tour guide. And this is why we covered it first on just the wonder of mathematics. Because remember, when you're down that 40%, like in the first example, you don't just make 40% to get your money back. You have to make like 67 to 70% to get back. In the year of 2007 to 2009, you don't have to, when you lose 50%, you don't make 50%. You have to make 100%. It is those huge gaps of recovery that you have to make up the ground on, that the slow and steady power of diversification wins out in the long term. And this is why I would ask anybody, if you go and interview your financial advisor, and it's so interesting. We just had one of our primary advisors come in here, and they were pretty bummed that they had just, a client had let them know they were moving in a different direction. And this is what I think really bothered this advisor, is that the person that this person's moving to, they pitched them on performance. And that is a siren song, guys, from just a standpoint of investments. Be very wary of any investment advisor who tells you, I've got the magic system that's going to outperform. We've shown you on so many presentations, so many slides, the SPIVA data, that when you get out to long-term 15, 20-year time periods, the indexes outperform like 80 to 85% of the managers out there. So somebody to market off of performance is fool's gold. Just be very aware of that. What's actually going to get you to success is somebody who understands, I want to get you the majority of the upside, minimize your downside as much as possible, and then focus on your goals. What's your why? What are you trying to accomplish? How am I going to navigate that from a financial planning efficiency way? That is success.